dinner date turned into a nightmare when he snatched my phone and saw my affair. I've never been in this type of messy situation before. I've just put myself in a very big problem and I'm at the verge of losing my marriage. My husband suggested we go on a date, but it ended in a bad way. My affair partner kept sending me messages while I was on a date with my husband. He got curious and snatched the phone from me. I was surprised by his actions and honestly, I didn't see it coming. My name is Daniela. I'm 27 years old. The name of my husband is James. He is 29 years old. My husband and I have been together for 7 years, but currently we're in the process of getting a divorce as a result of my infidelity. I've been cheating on my husband for quite a while now, and I feel so guilty thinking about it. I never for a day imagined that things would get out of hand and I will have to go through this fate. I didn't think that my husband would be the one to find out that I was cheating on him. What even made it painful was the fact that he found out on the date he organized just for the both of us. I'm here to let you all know about this and just hope that someone who reads this would have an idea as to how I can save myself and my marriage from this. To say that I'm desperate is an understatement, guys. I urgently need advice from you all. James is a nice guy and also a good husband. I don't blame anyone for my infidelity, not even James, because I am old enough to know what's good and what's bad. But nevertheless, James somewhat had a hand in this. James barely has time for both of us. It's not like the nature of his job requires more time though, but he chose to be nonchalant about us. Sometimes I wonder if he does it on purpose. Apparently, James is a gynecologist. His work doesn't take long hours, but James always comes back home late at night. Sometimes he does hang out with his friends, but doesn't usually come home to spend time like normal couples do, or even go out together. I tried to always come back home early from work so as to have some time with my husband, but James is not always around. His nonchalant behavior towards our marriage made me stop liking him. It seemed like I was the only one that was putting effort into making our marriage work. I also didn't like the fact that he always spent more time outside than he spent at home. But thinking about it, guys, I regret my actions and I wished I never went down that path because right now I'm currently dealing with a lot of things. One of those is my affair partner. Right now he's currently not picking my calls or replying to any of my text messages. Frankly speaking, guys, I hate him right now and everything about him. I cannot believe that he did this to me after the time we both had spent together. Does it mean that all of those times meant nothing to him or he just used me to have fun? My life and everything that I have worked for is crumbling in pieces right in front of me. I take full responsibility for my actions. James not spending time with me isn't enough reason to cheat on him. I should have spoken up but kept assuming that he was cheating on me, which he wasn't. At some point I did tell him about it, but my husband just shrugged it off like it's nothing. He made me look like I was a mad wife. So guys, I couldn't continue to deal with this nonchalant behavior that my husband had developed. I got tired and frustrated. Our first few years of being together wasn't like this. I honestly did not know what changed all of a sudden. The sudden change made me seek attention elsewhere, so I cheated on him. I got the attention I was crazily begging my husband for. I started going out with an old friend from my neighborhood when I was living with my parents. His name is Henry. Henry was a year older than me, and he was one of the most handsome guys in our neighborhood back then. Henry and I lost contact after our graduation in high school, and we got connected back a few months ago. One day, while I was heading out from the house, I saw a familiar face conversing with someone I didn't know. I drove closer and saw that it was Henry, my old-time crush and neighbor. Yes, guys, I once had a crush on him way back. I quickly parked and went down to say hello. I called out to him because I knew he was the one. Immediately, Henry turned around to see who it was. From the look on his face, Henry was surprised and shocked to see me. We both ran and hugged each other. I was so happy that I got to meet my longtime friend. Henry also expressed his excitement and we talked for a while before he proposed for us to go have a conversation elsewhere. At that moment, I postponed whatever I wanted to go and get and went to a nearby restaurant with Henry. We indeed had such a nice time together. Henry collected my number and promised to give me a call that evening. When I got home that day, Henry called like he promised, chatted for a few minutes before we hung up on each other. Of course, I had the number saved on my phone and we talked from that day onward. Henry and I started chatting for a few weeks, telling each other about how our day went. Honestly, guys, we also called and texted for late hours and sometimes Henry came visiting to keep me company. So guys, that was how Henry and I became so close that we started going on dates together secretly. Yes, guys, I told Henry that I was married but didn't know James, so we kept our relationship private. He wasn't able to attend our wedding at the time we were about to wed because we lost all forms of communication. So moving forward, this secret meeting went on for a couple of months and it felt like I was getting myself back. I forgot I was even married for a long time due to how James was treating me. Henry gave me all the attention I was begging James for. I felt happy because I never thought that someone could actually listen to me or give me the quality attention I was longing for a long time. I began to think Henry was the one for me, and gradually I forgot about James. So guys, James and I were like a total stranger in the house. We would wake up in the morning and go our separate ways to work. Before I started dating Henry, I was always telling James about his sudden change, but all went on deaf ears. Anytime I tried complaining, it made me look like I was the mad one. I didn't want to lose my sanity, and I stopped complaining. At that time, I made up my mind that I wouldn't waste my time in fixing a marriage that the other party wasn't putting an effort into. All I wanted was the attention and to be loved by my husband. James wasn't the only busy one I was. In fact, if we were to talk about who was to be more busy, then it's definitely going to be me because I worked in a producing industry that requires long hours and shifts. But I still tried my best to come back home early and render my duty as a wife. Duty, I mean cooking, cleaning, and taking care of the house. All other things weren't included. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. Even though my reasons for cheating are not enough, I know that James has a lot of faults in it. Let's say maybe he thought I was okay, but didn't know that I was feeling lonely and needed the love of my husband. That was what he failed to see and didn't care to ask if everything was all right with me. So guys, the time that James finally decided to take me out, that time it was already too late. I had cheated on him with Henry already. He didn't know that I was seeing someone else, or rather someone else was giving me the attention that I needed. But thinking about it right now, I terribly regret everything and I wish I could turn back the hands of time. I want to make things right with him again, and I just hope he finds a way to forgive me. After the incident on our date, I couldn't get hold of myself. The reality of everything dawned on me instantly. I watched my husband acting cold towards me. He forgot for a second that I was his wife. You all needed to see the look on his face. It was terrifying. I couldn't even look him in the eyes to say anything. I ran out of words and didn't know where to hide my face. Everyone at the restaurant was literally staring at us, and those that cared to listen stayed back, even though they were done eating. I never thought that the date I yearned for so many months could be the one to end my marriage. How I wished that Henry didn't call me at that moment. I wouldn't blame him because it wasn't his fault. He called at the wrong time. But the aftermath of the whole situation is what is angering me. Henry denied me like he never knew me. To think that I went to see him and explained everything after the whole scenario that happened at the restaurant, and the cold shoulder he gave is what is paining me the most. I thought maybe he would be compassionate enough to even let me in or pretend to care, but I got the opposite of my expectations. I trusted him. That was the mistake I made. I shouldn't have. And now I am reaping the consequences of what I sowed. Everything that I have worked for in my marriage is crumbling right in front of me. I know you all would be curious to know how everything came to play and what actually happened, right? Well, I will tell you all about it now. Apparently, James noticed that I wasn't nagging or complaining about his sudden change for a while, and so he decided to surprise me. It was a few days ago. I was at work when he called to tell me that he wanted to show me something. Coming from James at that time, I was very anxious to know what it was because it was unlike him. At that time, I could count the number of times he called me at work, and what even made me anxious was the fact that he had something to show me. So guys, I quickly packed my things and headed home. While I was on my way, I kept thinking about it. I eventually got home and opened the door. When I entered, I saw James seated on the couch. He must have probably been waiting for me. I apologized for taking so much time to come back home, but he got up from the couch and pecked me. He told me that he wasn't angry, and in fact, I made it on time. At that moment, my heart was beating so fast that I got goosebumps on my body. I thought maybe I was dreaming and wanted a confirmation that I wasn't. What even got me surprised was the thing James said next. Guess what, guys? James told me that he wanted us to go on a date at a nearby restaurant. That statement actually made me wonder if James was the one standing right in front of me. I was shocked and was also surprised at the same time. I was quiet for a few seconds before thinking if this was really my husband, James. I thought maybe he must have been swapped or hit his head on the wall that made him ask that. I wasn't expecting that from James, and honestly, guys, I was very surprised. I was deep in my own thoughts when my husband tapped me. I quickly recomposed myself and nodded my head in agreement. James hugged me and said we should head out immediately, but I told him that I wanted to freshen up and change into something nice before leaving. He agreed, and I went upstairs. While I was in the bathroom, I was very happy and excited that my husband had finally decided for us to go on a date. It was something I was yearning for so long, and was happy that it was happening already. Just when I was about to shower, I remembered Henry. I felt a little bit of guilt and had mixed feelings. I became moody knowing what I did. I thought of how my husband would feel if he learned about my infidelity with Henry. It was as if karma came knocking at the wrong time. I stopped thinking about it and had my shower. After a few minutes, I came downstairs to meet James. He was very calm and didn't complain. James complimented my dressing and told me I looked beautiful in it. I couldn't look at him because I had a sense of guilt in me. I kept thinking about the dirty thing I did with Henry. But at that time, I decided to stop thinking about it and enjoy the moment. James held my hand and we left the house. So guys, we went to a nearby restaurant not too far from the house. It was a nice fancy place. Usually couples come there to have a lunch or dinner date there. I felt special that James brought me there. It was so thoughtful of him to have proposed a lunch date for us and also hang out together. We headed to a table and we sat down waiting for someone to come take our orders. While we were waiting, James began apologizing for neglecting me all this while. He told me that it wasn't deliberate, that he got overwhelmed with work. He poured his heart out and apologized frantically. I was amazed by what James said and was also happy that he had realized he was wrong. I was literally blushing and smiling at the same time. To say that I was happy is an understatement, guys. I was literally over the moon, to say lol. A few minutes later, someone came to our table to take our order. One thing that I loved about the restaurant was the way and manner they received us. Everything was well put and the staff were well-mannered. The atmosphere was pleasant. I loved everything about the restaurant. James really knows how to treat a woman well when it comes to going on a date. I looked through the menu and placed my order. James ordered the same thing with me. LOL. It took a while before our orders arrived. Before it came, James and I were sipping on the glass of wine just to pass away time. At that moment, I totally forgot about Henry. All I was thinking was how to enjoy the moment and was also thinking about what to say if James learns about it himself. I didn't want to ruin the moment, so I stopped thinking and concentrated more on James. He looked very handsome. When the orders finally arrived, we started eating. This is where it gets interesting to you all reading this. I honestly did not know that the date that I was yearning for so long would send me parking. When James and I started eating, my phone beeped twice. Honestly speaking, guys, at that time I wasn't expecting any messages or calls from anyone. All that I was thinking about was James and the date we were on. Immediately, I took my phone to see the message. Of course it was Henry. The first two messages were about my welfare. I read it and didn't text back so as to not disrespect my husband. I dropped my phone and continued eating my food. James didn't notice anything. He was focused on his food. A few seconds later, my phone was buzzing again. I ignored it and didn't reply to the message. But at this time, my husband was interested to know what was going on. James asked if everything was okay, which I said yes. But from the look on James's face, I knew he didn't buy that response, but he nodded in agreement. At that moment, I was already feeling uncomfortable. I was pissed that Henry had to text me at that odd hour. The thought of switching my phone didn't cross my mind. If not, I would have done that. The messages kept on coming, and so I took my phone to see what he had sent this time. I took my phone to take a slight glimpse of it before muting it. It was this time that James said I should reply to who the texter was, so as to not keep the person waiting. But I told him that there would be no need for that, and so we continued eating and I dropped my phone. The messages stopped for a few minutes before my phone started buzzing again. Before I could take a look at it, James quickly took it and said he would like to see it. It was then that James saw Henry's name. He was curious to know who the texter was because I didn't save Henry's number with the usual name. The name attracted his attention, and so he opened the messages. Apparently, I had saved Henry's number as Pia. When my husband opened the messages, he asked who Pia was and why she was asking if I could come over to our usual hotel and have fun because she was missing me. James was curious, and he immediately asked if at all I was gay. Immediately, I told him I wasn't. I asked him to give me back my phone, but he refused and proceeded to read the other messages. At that moment, I already knew that I was finished. Every message he read, he would shake his head and say something interesting. After reading everything, James gave me my phone back. I was scared and was waiting to see his reaction. If I knew it, James gave me a very loud slap. It was so loud that it attracted attention and at the same time was very painful. He then got up from his seat and came to where I was seated. He dragged me up from my seat and angrily asked me to tell him who is Pia, or else he would give me another slap. But this time, it would be more painful. I started stuttering and didn't know what to say. Everyone was already looking in our direction. I was very surprised and shocked to see James acting that way. In our years of marriage and relationship, I have never seen him that angry before. It was his dangerous side I didn't know about, and I was the one that awakened it. James dragged me out from inside the restaurant to outside the restaurant. Everyone was already staring at us. The passersby also stopped to watch. James yelled at me and told me awful things. He also made it clear that I shouldn't bother coming back home because I would hate myself if I dared to. So guys, I need your advice about this. Right now I feel ashamed of myself. The embarrassment from James at the restaurant was too cold. I wish I could erase that memory from my head. Also, I regret what I did, and I hope that James will take me back. I would be in the comments section to read what you all have to say about this. I know you all would judge me, and I'm ready to be judged, but please no nasty comments. Update. Hi guys, I'm back to complete my story, but before I continue, I want to officially say that I am now a divorced woman. Yes guys, my husband and I have officially parted ways. The last time I was here, I told you all that I and my husband were in the process of getting a divorce. Well, all efforts to make things right went in vain. James had his mind made up to divorce me. Even after I went over to the house to plead with him, but he gave me a cold shoulder and didn't think twice before sending me out. I was disgraced twice. One was at the restaurant and the other was at the house. Apparently, I pleaded with my parents to go with me and talk to James, but they bluntly turned it down. Most especially my dad. He is vigorously against infidelity. When they refused, I went over to a relative of ours, my aunt. She had pity on me and she volunteered to go with me. But she told me that I shouldn't expect anything and take whatever that comes from it because no man would accept to live with a cheater. I felt ashamed hearing those words. Of course, no man in his right senses would want to be with a cheating partner. So guys, my aunt and I went over to the house to plead with James. But guess what guys, James didn't give us a listening ear. Even if he didn't want to hear anything I had to say, he should have at least heard from my aunt. I was too embarrassed that I had to cover my face. I apologized to my aunt for bringing her into the mess I created. My aunt was compassionate and didn't judge me or yell at me for disgracing her. James made us leave the house and was yelling on top of his voice. His voice was so loud that it attracted the neighbors. All the neighbors that cared to listen came over and my ex-husband didn't disappoint. He narrated everything to them. I wouldn't blame any of them because I was the one that put myself in that disgraceful position. Who wouldn't want to watch a thing like that or even want to listen or know the full story? Absolutely anyone would want to. At that moment, I knew that there was nothing left. James had already made up his mind to not let me in. I ran into the car, leaving my aunt at that side. The scene was so embarrassing that I had to leave. The side comments and the painful words pierced into my soul. I cried bitterly. My aunt came to join me and we left the place. When I got home, I didn't think twice before signing the divorce papers. I signed it and sent it back to him. The embarrassment was too much and I kind of deserved it. I guess bad things happen to bad people, and at the end of the day, I should have seen it coming. Thank you all for reading this awful experience of mine.
It's really hard having to pretend like everything is okay while it's not. I don't know why I did it, but I did it anyway, despite my boyfriend's disapproval. I was told and advised to not spend any more time with the coach because it would not end well. With stubbornness and hunger for success in my acting career, I pushed all those advice at the back of my head and continued doing what I thought was right. But nothing happened. It was purely work. Maybe the coach might have tried making a move here and there, but I knew I had a boyfriend that I loved and held in very high regards. Guess what the boyfriend did? He made my life a living hell. He made sure that I suffocate and not be able to breathe. It felt like I was in the middle of the sea. I was drowning and I was trying by all means to get out and save myself. But someone was busy pushing me back inside to a point that I saw my life flashing right before my eyes. It was really toxic, and I was glad that I got a chance to finally walk away from the relationship. I won't lie and say I do not miss my boyfriend, or I no longer love him because I do, and I do so much. I knew he had a problem of always thinking for himself. He was arrogant to a point that he never considered someone else's feelings. As long as his own feelings are considered, another person is not important. Did I do wrong by wanting to chase my dreams? I thought he would change, but I guess I was wrong. Please tell me what to do to fix all the mess that my ex-boyfriend had made in my career because it's no longer promising. What should I do? So Quentin, my boyfriend, male 27, and I, female 25, met at an ultra music festival that always takes place around March 20-something in Miami. It is a 3-day festival, and I always make sure not to miss it. Well, me and my siblings always made sure to never miss it. It was like our tradition to always attend an ultra music festival. So as we were busy dancing and enjoying the music with my siblings, I decided to leave them a little and go to some trailer that was selling food and drinks. When I got here, I ordered my food since I was somehow hungry, and as I was about to pay, there came this handsome, random guy. He greeted us, me and the food seller, and the seller that he was going to pay for both my order and his. Well, at first I found that really weird and unsettling because in my world we no longer had good Samaritans. So I wondered what the guy had wanted because we didn't even know each other. So I thanked him for the kind gesture and we continued chatting for a while. He was actually a very fun and sophisticated guy. Besides his charming and handsome self, he was what we call the IT guy. His blue hazel eyes were very hypnotizing. He was also a very sweet person and good company. We hung around for like an hour or two until one of my siblings approached us and told me that we had to go since it was getting pretty late. So Quentin and I exchanged numbers and promised each other that we would continue to chat over the phone. 3 days later, I received his call asking to meet up with him since he was around Coconut Grove, where I was staying. I agreed to the meetup, and we met at a local cafe that was not far from my home. We spent a lot of time chatting about our goals and objectives. It was really fun and a breath of fresh air to spend some time with him. I loved the fact that he was the guy with ambition and consistency to reach his goal in the entertainment industry since he was a filming producer. We had a lot in common, since I was also an aspiring actress. I was glad to find someone like him who would guide me, coach me, and help me build my acting career. That is what I had thought when I got into a relationship with him. Little did I know that I was getting myself a trap. There were red flags that I had noticed about him, but the way he was smooth with words, the way he knew how to make a lady melt and happy without even trying hard, made me put all that aside and focus on the present. Quentin and I started dating after going on a couple of dates. Well, more like we made our relationship official 3 months after we became friends. Our relationship was bliss at first. I was the happiest woman on earth. I had told him about my aspiring acting career and that I had dreams of becoming one of the best actresses in Hollywood someday. He was very supportive, He even told me that he would introduce me to his coach. Well, he was his fitness coach and an acting coach. I was glad that he was considering my dreams, and he was willing to help me get into a stepping ladder. Few days later, Quentin took me to his coach's house and introduced me. Well, it was more like a surprise to me because he didn't even tell me that his coach was Alex Frazier, male, 29. I was a big fan of his fiancée, Jessica, female, 25. She was living the life that I wanted to live. She was a true inspiration. Their relationship was what some of us only see on TV. It was so perfect. But social media life and real life are not the same, though I learnt that later. Alex was to become my acting coach. I was going to join his classes that took place 3 days a week, and the extra 2 days were for training. I was happy with the changes that were happening in my life. The path that my career was taking was the path that I had always wished for, and my boyfriend, or must I say ex-boyfriend, made everything easier for me. My classes with Alex were going to open so many doors for me. I have seen his phenomenal work before. Most of his students make it in the acting industry, and I had that hope that I would also make it. Weeks later, I started classes with Alex. Mind you, I had gone to an acting school and learnt the basics. But what Alex taught me was somehow new information to me that I didn't even know or learnt at school. Alex was or is known for his charisma and ability to bring out the best in his students. So being one of his students made me feel like I had achieved everything in life. He ran a very successful and well-known acting agency in Miami, name withheld due to personal reasons. Quentin was working as a film and music producer to one of the aspiring entertainment and filming companies in Pinecrest, Florida, Miami. So I had moved in with Quentin after we dated for 5 months. Well, the reason why I had moved in with him was because I wanted to be closer to him. I mean, he was more like my oxygen, and I couldn't live without him. Our relationship was more like an obsessive relationship. It was kind of toxic, but we enjoyed it like that. I don't know. Maybe I was too much within his grip and blinded by love, but I didn't find anything wrong with how our relationship was toxic. I kept attending my classes and training sessions with Alex. At that time, we were going to be shooting a short video that would help us in the future, in our acting career. Alex's words, not mine. Meanwhile, Quentin had advised me not to spend much time with Alex because I had started coming back to the apartment late, especially during training days, so Quentin didn't like that. Quentin was a very insecure and jealous person, so when I spent more time at the studio with Alex, he would get angry and start being delusional. As my professional relationship with Alex progressed, our bond grew stronger. We would spend countless hours together at the studio, working on routines, scripts, scenes, and discussing strategies for competitions. Alex's charisma and charm made me somehow feel special and valued. So Alex was a charismatic and charming coach who seemed to have all the right advice to propel my career forward. He believed in me, which was one thing that Quentin suddenly changed from. Quentin was no longer the supportive boyfriend. He never really asked me about my classes and training. All he cared about was himself and how big his name was going to be with the movie that they were filming and how much money he had spent to get Taraji P. Henson to be one of the leading stars. While Alex was pushing me to be the best in acting, little did I know that beneath his charming exterior, Quentin was a narcissist who would stop at nothing to control and manipulate me. He had shown me signs before, but I had never taken them seriously because I thought it was just a passing thing and work pressure. But the manipulation and controlling behavior kept getting worse, especially when I would come back late, when training took longer time. Quentin's narcissistic tendencies became more apparent as he sought to control and dominate my life. He would undermine me in the presence of other uprising actresses, making me doubt my abilities and isolating me from my teammates. Yes, he knew everything I was doing during classes and training sessions. He even knew about my projects that Alex would give us to work on. But he never really asked me about anything. I felt trapped, unable to escape the clutches of my narcissistic boyfriend. One night, after a particularly grueling training session, I found myself seeking solace in Alex's arms. We spent the night together, and for a brief moment, I believed that my dreams were finally within reach. However, as days turned into weeks, I realized that my relationship with Quentin had taken a dark turn. He became someone I wouldn't recognize and didn't know. As the evening progressed, the line between our professional and personal relationship became blurred. I found myself caught in a whirlwind of emotions and gave in to the allure of the moment, spending the night with Alex. The next morning, reality hit me like a ton of bricks. She woke up with a sense of guilt and confusion, realizing the consequences of my impulsive decision. However, the aftermath of that night was far worse than I could have anticipated. My mind kept ringing Quentin's name and reminded myself that if he was to find out, hell would break loose and it would jeopardize my relationship with Quentin. But I didn't do anything with Alex, so it was not supposed to be a big deal, right? About a week later, Quentin went to New York for his film shooting. Mind you, he told me that the day before, well, more like the night before. I didn't know who Quentin was anymore. He had changed to be this dark person with a dark aura. I tried addressing the issue that we were facing with him, but he just told me that he was fine. He was just dealing with work and told me how high the pressure was for him. He promised me that he would get back to his original self and make it up to me when they are done filming the movie. The tension was too thick at the house, to a point that it even affected our intimate moments. Quentin was no longer the romantic Quentin. He was focused on what he was doing. And what would break my heart more was the fact that he wouldn't want to at least show up and show me support when we do training or shooting short scenes that would be involved on our acting resumes. One night, I was alone in the house, all bored and missing Quentin a lot. As I was busy scrolling down my social media feeds when I received a text message from Alex. It was really surprising because our classes were going to continue the upcoming Monday. He was actually telling me there were important parts of the scene that we should look through before Monday. So he suggested that I come over to his house so that we would go through them together. Because I loved what I did and I trusted Alex, I agreed to come over to his house. In my head, I was telling myself that nothing was going to happen, and the guy had a fiancé, so I was safe. Little did I know that when I got there, the fiancé was not present. Alex told me that she had gone home since there was a crisis that needed her attention. So we went through the scenes. We would also take short breaks and speak about our lives in general and our relationship fears. I ended up opening up about my relationship problems. Alex was a very good listener and a good advisor, so I didn't think confiding in him about what I was facing in my relationship with Quentin would actually cost me a lot. However, as the days passed, I noticed a gradual change in my professional life. Projects I had been working on with Alex diligently started to fall apart, important emails went unanswered, and my reputation began to suffer. I got confused and distraught. I couldn't understand why my once promising career was spiraling downward. Few days later, Quentin got back from New York. Mind you, he had gone for the whole month, and during that month, he had only called me a few times to check up on me. I had even thought that he was having an affair outside our relationship. I mean, I didn't know how to explain his sudden behavior and control freak tendencies. So one day he came back fuming. I was confused by why he was angry. I wondered what had happened at work. Little did I know that the guy that I love was actually angry at me. I was the problem. I tried speaking to him, but he kept asking about what he said to me, and asked if he had ever told me that I shouldn't spend more time with Alex and why I was spending the night at his house. I was shocked by his revelation. I didn't know what to say. My tongue just got tied for some reason. So Quentin, fueled by his own ego and desire for control, started sabotaging my every move. He would criticize my performance, belittle my achievements, and constantly remind me that I owed my success to him. After those hurtful words that he had said, my confidence began to crumble, and I felt trapped in a toxic cycle of love and manipulation. His words were a very sharp stab in my heart. I was not expecting that from him. It was very low even for him. Months later, as my career took a downward spiral, I started questioning if my relationship with Quentin was worth sacrificing my dreams. I was determined to break free from his grip. I sought the support of my siblings, since they were the only friends I had, and parents, who had noticed the change in her demeanor. My family encouraged me to stand up for myself and reclaim my independence. My heart still yearned for Quentin's love and hoped that maybe he would change someday and be the Quentin that I had fallen deeply in love with. I knew he loved me, but sometimes love alone was not enough if you are happy. I tried talking to Alex about the sudden turn of events and tried to reason with him to at least conduct online classes with me because I would not be able to attend since Quentin was always with him during his free times. And the guy refused, telling me that he can no longer be my acting coach. I should try other acting agencies. I knew there and then that everything that I had worked hard for was slowly vanishing right before my eyes. One day, as I was going through Quentin's phone, I needed to find answers on why Alex would bail out on me all of a sudden. I knew that they had talked about me since they were close friends. I stumbled upon a conversation between Quentin and a mutual acquaintance, not Alex. To my horror, I discovered that Quentin had been intentionally sabotaging me behind my back. The conversations mentioned that he felt threatened by my success and wanted to ensure that I remained dependent on him. I couldn't believe it. I kept reading everything with my hands trembling and tears streaming down my face. The fact that I was one step ahead to the top, I was actually like a foot away to my success. The doors to my acting career were actually waiting for me to enter. But all that took 100 steps down to destroy me and my career. Just because of one night that I had spent with Alex, working on some scenes and scripts. I lost everything. Spending time with Alex cost me a lot. It cost me the love of my life, my future, my career, and took me straight to the bottom of the ladder. Devastated by this revelation, I confronted Quentin, pouring out my heart and expressing my deep disappointment. Quentin, unapologetic and dismissive, twisted the situation, blaming me for his actions and accusing me of being paranoid. With my newfound strength and determination of wanting to get to the bottom of everything, I decided to confront Quentin again about everything, exposing his true nature and breaking free from his hold. I had to find answers on why he was making my life so miserable, and why he was busy sabotaging everything I did. I didn't understand why he would do that to someone he claimed to love, or if he didn't love me. I was not about to feel guilty about something that I knew wouldn't put our relationship into such strings, because he knew I loved him so much to do that to him. I respected him as my partner, even though sometimes he was not deserving my respect. I left with shattered dreams and a sense of betrayal. I found myself at a crossroads. It was like I didn't know where to go or where to turn. I actually had no direction, and it was really weighing me up. I knew that I had to make a difficult choice and decision between staying in a toxic relationship or breaking free and reclaiming my life. I won't lie and say I didn't love Quentin, or I have flushed all my feelings for him, because I didn't, and I still love him very much. is that even normal? Through therapy and reflection, I recognized the toxic dynamics at play in my relationship with Quentin. I also realized that my worth as an actress and as an individual was not defined by his approval or validation. With newfound determination, I made the decision to break free from the toxic cycle. It was a difficult and emotionally draining process, but I knew it was necessary for my own well-being and future success. Summoning my inner strength, I decided to cut ties with Quentin, recognizing that my well-being and professional growth were far more important than any relationship. With determination and resilience, I sought support from my siblings, mentors, and therapy to rebuild my confidence and regain control over my life, just like how my family had advised me to. I had stayed with this guy through his manipulation and controlling while he would go for a month to do his filming things without even calling to check how I was. But because I had spent 2 nights with Alex, but it was strictly work-related, nothing else. So I realized that my success was not dependent on a toxic relationship, but on my own hard work, dedication, and talent. Slowly but surely, I began rebuilding my life, finding a new coach who believed in my abilities and supported me unconditionally. Through perseverance and resilience, I rose above all the challenges and setbacks, becoming a symbol of strength for others who had experienced similar toxic relationships. I used my social media platform to raise awareness about narcissistic abuse and the importance of self-love and empowerment. I did not only triumph in my acting career, but also in my personal life. I learned valuable lessons about the power of self-belief, surrounding myself with positive influences, and never compromising my dreams for anyone. Over time, I regained my passion for acting and flourished as an actress. I went on to achieve remarkable success, proving to myself and the world that I was capable of greatness. Through my journey, I became an advocate for recognizing and addressing toxic relationships in the entertainment community. Slowly but surely, I began to rebuild my career from the ground up. I surrounded myself with positive influences and focused on my own personal and professional development. Through hard work and perseverance, I emerged stronger than ever, proving to myself and the world that I was not defined by the actions of my narcissistic ex-boyfriend. Quentin had posted a lot about me, demonizing my reputation and opportunities. I realized that I had to take drastic measures to protect my career and my sanity. I gathered evidence of Alex's sabotage and reported him to the acting agency company where he worked. Alex was eventually fired, and I was able to rebuild my career without his interference. It took me a long time to heal from the emotional damage caused by my relationship with Alex. But I learned the hard way that it is important to be wary of people with narcissistic personalities and to set boundaries to protect oneself from their manipulative behavior. I eventually emerged from this experience stronger and more resilient. I continued to pursue my acting dreams and eventually achieved success on my own terms. I learned the valuable lesson that true success comes from within, and that it is important to surround oneself with positive and supportive people. To me, my story serves as a reminder that toxic relationships can have far-reaching consequences. It highlights the importance of recognizing and addressing narcissistic behavior early on, and the courage it takes to break free from such destructive dynamics. Ultimately, my journey of self-discovery and resilience became the catalyst for my success, as I learned to trust in my own abilities and create a brighter future for myself. Even though my heart still yearns for Quentin's love and touches, I knew that I had to choose myself and my career first. And I had to get out of the toxic relationship before it was too late. I know my heart should be hating Quentin for sabotaging my career and my reputation, but it still loves him. Am I wrong for wanting to get back with him and try and help him overcome his narcissist behavior? Because if it goes untreated and unspoken, it would become worse and he would do it to someone else. Please advise me, what should I do?